Okay, well, thank you for such a wonderful introduction. I almost started crying. So sweet. I'm Theresa, and like Jean said, I run a website called The Local Tourist. And one of the things I joke about when people say, so what are your plans? What do you want to do with The Local Tourist? And I always say world domination. So that's what I wanted to call this, Drupal for World Domination. Or how I use this free open source CMS to tell people where to go. So the idea behind The Local Tourist is it's a guide for Chicago, helps people figure out where to go and what to do based on the neighborhood that they're in. So, and because, like you mentioned, I'm big on social media, I do talk a lot, I tell people a lot where to go. But anyway, what is Drupal? Drupal is a free open source content management system. It's built by a community of developers and very passionate people. And actually, somebody was sitting next to today at lunch already asked me, why did I choose Drupal over all the other CMSs? There's WordPress, Joomla, .NET Nuke. There are a bunch of others out there. But when I was redesigning the website back in 2008, I looked at several different options. Originally, I don't, like Jean said, I'm not a techie. My degree's in journalism, and so I started off with an idea. And I taught myself basic HTML, used front page, and as the site grew, it became more and more of a mess. So finally I thought I need to find a solution that's going to not only fix the site as it was, but take it where I envisioned in the future. So I looked at Typo3, Mambo, Joomla, WordPress, and Drupal. Ended up with it because there are several different pros to it. One, of course, it's free. At the time I was waiting tables, had no budget, just time. So another was that it was open source, which meant that there would be a big community behind it who would be very active and involved in developing it. So it wouldn't be a closed system like Microsoft or Apple. The fact that it's open source also meant that it was customizable. So I could take my idea and I could use different pieces of it to make it a reality. Also meant I needed something that was scalable. So I could go from just this downtown neighborhood website into something much larger. Had to be manageable for non-techies. I mean, like I said, I taught myself a little bit of basic HTML, but at core, I'm definitely much more right-brained. So I needed something that I could understand. And did I mention free? Free was a big part of that. Some of the cons are lack of documentation. There's, especially back in 2008, it's much better now. There wasn't a whole lot of documentation from Drupal itself. This was really built by some die-hard technical people, so they were speaking in a language that I didn't quite understand as well as I wanted to. I wish there had been an ABC tutorial that wasn't there. So that meant I had a bigger learning curve. But like I mentioned, I had time, so I just dived right in and taught myself that. But because it's open source and there's such a big community, it's international, the back-end code can be a little bit messy. At the point where my site is now, I'm actually talking to people, to some local Drupal experts, about cleaning it up. Because if you've got somebody in California and somebody in Scandinavia designing code, and every country and state in between, sometimes they don't play nicely together. And then there's some HTML and CSS knowledge required. You don't have to know how to write code, but you do need to be able to get in there and figure out what's wrong if there's a problem. Okay. So who uses Drupal? Some pretty big sites. Fast Company, that's a big one. Sony Music and Warner Brothers Music both use Drupal. The White House uses Drupal for their website, for the back end. The Economist. Vocalo, which is a local NPR station. They do live radio shows. And then, of course, The Local Tourist. So the basics behind Drupal, it's built on Drupal core, which has some basic modules and generic themes. You can run a basic website from this. You don't need to add anything else, and you can have a functional site that's actually fairly interactive. But then you've got contributed themes, like most CMSs. But one of the things that really struck me about Drupal was taxonomy. The organization structure behind it is built on taxonomy, and I'll get into that a little more later. But and then the modules, and this is what really makes it extremely powerful, is there are thousands of contributed modules that can let you do basically anything you can imagine. So core modules, like I mentioned, you can create a website from just the core modules. So these are some of the basic ones. You can blog, you can have a feed aggregator, comment, contact, forum, profile, so you've got the interactive functionality in there. And then you've got some generic themes. But you don't really want to use generic themes so much because then your site looks like everybody else's. So this theme up on the right is called Acquia Marina. It's run by a local company called Acquia. They're very active in the Drupal world. But that theme is the same as a theme that I use for the local tourist. You can see some of the elements are similar. The logo's in the same place, search bar, nav bar looks very similar, and then of course the big middle bar in the middle. But other than that, it's very different. So, but you can do that with any of the custom themes. Okay. Now going back to taxonomy, that just means the science of vocabulary. And when you're starting to create a website with Drupal, you want to really think about how you want your data classified, how you want it organized. So you start with your vocabularies, and then you drill it down into different terms. Like for the local tourist, when I started it, it was just for downtown, but I knew I wanted to go into other cities, other states, other countries. So I start off with cities as the main vocabulary, and then I can drill down all the way down to Loop for Chicago's neighborhoods. And then I can create things to do is another vocabulary. And then I can do attractions, and then tours, and then bike and cycling tours, and I can drill down as far as I want on that as well. So, and you can customize it for any use case, any scenario. Okay. And like I mentioned in the beginning, the contributed modules, though, are really what makes Drupal so powerful. This is just a screenshot of the categories from A to E. And just remember, these are all just categories, and then below, in there are more and more and more modules. One of the main ones I want to point out is the content construction kit, and now we're getting kind of more into the nitty-gritty of how a website's built with Drupal. Content construction kit is one of the core ways that you can pull data into your website. So go on to the next. So it's CCK for short, and this is one of those when I first started using it. I kept seeing CCK, didn't quite understand it, but after seeing it over and over, I thought, okay, I get this is how they collect the data. Now there's a new version of Drupal where this is integrated, so you don't have to worry about finding that additional module. Go back. But CCK, you can customize. Like this is one of my custom forms. Create event listing. I've named it events. You can change the name. This is a date field, which you can have repeat functions. Where this references other listings that are on the website, so they're all tied together. And then this, you can put in the address, and it puts a map on the site. So this is just you can start to see some of the functionality you can do very easily with this. So that's how you get the data. And then you've got views, which is another core module that you want to use, and that's how the data is presented. So for the things to do page, I'm going to filter down to type of business. It's a business listing. And the taxonomy, I've got it filtered for attractions, bowling, movie theaters, tours. But you can you can customize it any which way you want. And then you can even expose some of those filters so the end user can see it and say, hey, I want to search on this or that. And then you pick out what items you want everybody to see. And that's what this part is here. And if you go to the next screen, that data presentation, this is what that produces. So this right here was from that previous screen. This is another view, premium listings is another view, and the map is another view. So there are so many different ways that you can manipulate this data. Now, on the screen at the top is called panels, which is another way to customize how it looks. Like WordPress is built on widgets, Drupal is built on blocks, but that can be very restrictive. So if you want to customize the way a site looks, panels is an easy way to do it. It's more about, you can say, I want a block here, and a rectangle here, and a square here, and you kind of move them around like puzzle pieces. So it just makes it very easy to change the look and feel of a website. Community was another big part of Drupal. Drupal bills itself as a community CMS because it does, like I showed in the beginning, even the core has all of these modules built in that involve, encourage interaction. So you can have user-generated content. It's very easy to do. Like I've got users adding events and business listings and specials. You can have contributors. We have specific people who are given permissions to write blog posts. And then you can have guest contributors as well. So you can have a lot of interaction. But even more than that, each user can have their own profile, and you can dictate, or you can decide what they can include there. Like if they've got Twitter, you can have their Twitter feed on there. They can have friends and fans. You can write on their profile, keep a map of places they've been, and recent posts. Now this is of course all very customized to what I'm doing, which is more of a places to go and things to do website. But I hope you can see how it can be customized for several different types of businesses. So, and one of the great things about Drupal is now I've always had a goal to be able to expand to other markets. And I'm able to use one module and I can create a subdomain using the same theme, same database in an evening, which is fantastic. And I'm getting ready to drive Route 66, and so I created this website, Route66.thelocaltours. It took me about 2 hours. Using panels for this section, use the same theme, you probably recognize it. And all I changed was the taxonomy. So, that's it.
That's it. Questions? Oh gosh, you were good. You got 10 minutes for questions.
Okay, great.
How about that?
I speak very quickly, so sorry about that. So who has questions? Yes,
You know, Groupon's going after a different approach to doing business with various places that will offer discounts for patrons who come in. What keeps them from growing in the tourist direction? What would keep you from growing in the Groupon direction? Or do the two sides kind of feed customers into one another?
I think they feed customers into one another. Their core business, I mean, part of it, the core for them is they want to get people to go out more. I want to do that as well. We go through about it in different ways. So they're definitely about the deal and what's happening right now. And whereas I've got deals on there, it's also about what's constant too. And more building that community. They're really they're getting more into local, especially with the purchase of Whirl, so that they're doing the immediate deals. You can check on your phone and see what's going on right then.
Exactly. If I'm in a location in one of the neighborhoods, let's say 606 Mile, and something doesn't really suit my particular interest, do you have a way with information on your iPhone application to allow you to cross the street to go somewhere else?
Not yet, not on the iPhone. I mean, if you've got a smartphone, the site, it works on the smartphone, but I don't actually have an app yet, but it's in the works.
In the works?
Yes. Yes.
How do you, I have lots of questions for you, but
okay.
I'll keep the ones I have to what maybe everybody would be interested in. But how do you divide your time between spending time on the technology of the website versus spending time on the content of the website, and maybe even thinking about the revenue side and getting the advertisers and things like that? How do you break all that?
The technology part, I usually try to do that after hours. So it's as like most entrepreneurs, I don't work an 8 or 12-hour day. It's pretty much if I'm up, actually when I'm sleeping I'm working because I wake up and I go, oh, I could do that way. So, but it's during the day I'm focused more on the content. I try to be very efficient with scheduling things like blog posts and tweets.
Right.
Encouraging more and more user-generated content. That's a big thing too, because I really want it to be community-driven anyway.
Sure.
But that also means it's less work for me. But the technology, and I try not to get too wowed by, oh, I can do this and this and this. So that's one of the biggest problems with Drupal.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot in common, and I'm using Joomla.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, that's something that I sort of struggle with. Is if it's how does one brain sort of break up the different tasks, and how do I continue to make it enjoyable, content filled, and so on, but also advance the site and allow more functionalities.
Yeah, it's kind of going back to your core business, like, okay, what do I really want to accomplish with it, and then find the tools to make that happen, and don't get wowed by the pretty lights too much.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, is your service member-based? Do you have to become a member to
No, it's all free. You can. I've got over 5,200 registered members, but a lot. That's more you can generate. Keeping the map on your site. I mean, it's all free. It's all. Yes.
Have you figured out who are your users, who are your customers, and how do you do that? I mean, how do you touch base with them?
Google Analytics is fantastic for that. Yeah, my users are 30s and up generally. They're more cultural based. You won't see a lot of nightclub stuff on my site because that's just not what my audience wants. So Google Analytics is part of it. I mean, I can see what pages they're visiting more. And but I also use Alexa, which is a little. My traffic is getting to the point where it can be really useful. But that's part of it. I also have a newsletter, so I've had that for 8 years, so I get a lot of feedback from my users on that too. And the social media, of course, I get lots of feedback. So there are several different ways that I'm in touch with my audience and I know what they're looking for. And if I put a blog post out and it gets no reaction, then I know, hey, they probably don't want to know about that. So part of it's experimental too. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll get you next.
I would say, kind of back to your analytics there, is there an element where you have a social CRM tool or something that you can kind of look at your user base and say, like you said, the demographics or what they're interested in, or does this, does it play safe with any of the CRMs that are out there today? Because there's a point where your profile membership is going to be pretty big, and if you want your content management system, handling that, or you need to offload that to something else where you can at least study it better.
Right. Well, I use MailChimp for my email, so I can see a lot of their social networks and how they interact on there. Yeah, and then I use Bitly. There are some other crowd boosters, another tool I use.
Sure. Even just the zip code they're
right.
from.
Yes.
We're just moving into a Drupal platform, so we're kind of in the early part of the requirements gathering for our website. So I'm curious. One thing is about finding resources. I know that, like you said, you reached out as you were working on this and asked questions. Where did you find this? And who did you use for resources?
Have you the Drupal forums on the website and groups on the website? Those are both fantastic resources. Like I said, it's a very, very active community. If you've got, especially since you're in the information gathering stage, one thing I recommend is a Drupal meetup group. They have monthly meetings, very active, and I can give you the information for that if you'd like. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes.
Does it give you any tools for search engine optimization?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can integrate Google Analytics too, but it also has definite social SEO. There's a module that allows you to customize a page title. I like to get a little corny and kitschy with my blog title posts, so those will be like the fun ones, but then I've got a page title where I can do SEO and I can use the keywords in the page title. So that's just one example, but there's a whole category of modules that are geared towards SEO. Yes.
Could you do just sort of quick top line comparison between sort of like, I guess, the two leading competitors to this platform?
Sure.
WordPress and Joomla, sort of the strengths that Drupal has over those two.
Sure. WordPress is by far it's the most popular one. Drupal's catching up, but it is the most popular. It's still, I feel, geared more towards a blogging platform, but they've been adding a lot of different plugins, including like BuddyPress. Now you can do community with WordPress that you couldn't do when I redesigned. And I've thought, would I have used WordPress instead if BuddyPress was available back then? I still think I would have gone with Drupal just because of the broad range of modules. WordPress has more of it's easier to find help because there are a lot more people making a living out of teaching others WordPress than there are with Drupal. The next one would be Joomla, which is also, it's actually quite similar to Drupal. And I looked in the back end. One of the differences, one of the main ones, is that a lot of the modules or plugins are charged there for fee. So I had looked at, there was a time I became disenchanted with Drupal, and I looked into switching to Joomla, but it seemed like every core module that I needed, every really important one, like the events calendar, I was going to have to pay for. And I thought, I still wasn't at that point where I could do that. So that's another thing. Drupal, you might pay for themes, you'll never pay for modules. It's part of their license. Yes.
When you first got started with the local tourists, you said you were waiting tables. So did you? First of all, I'm really impressed that because I went through the process of sort of teaching myself Joomla, and there's always so much to learn. But did you think about it in the context of, or when you how do I ask the question? When you decided you were going to do something that became or was in your mind always the local tourist, was it sort of about the passion of creating this community and providing a place for people to go to find stuff, you know, in and around Chicago, or did you spend a great deal of time also thinking about the revenue stream and how do I make money doing this? How do I make this a business?
It was twofold. I would say the majority was about the passion for creating something. Like
Yeah.
so my degree's in journalism. I'm
Yeah.
a writer, so I just want to communicate. And,
Sure.
But my dad's an artist, and I grew up, and my mom's an accountant. So, like,
Nice.
the whole, you know, mom's on one shoulder, dad's on the other, and she's going, how you gonna make money? How you gonna make money? How you gonna make money? So that was always a part of it.
Perfect.
Oh, but you know, I knew it could never be subscription based. That's just too hard. So it's still advertising, the events that Jean mentioned, affiliate programs. So there are a lot of different revenue streams.
Do you mind talking a little bit more about how you find, you know, advertisers and how you use some of the other affiliate? Do you use
No,
Commission
no, no.
Junction and-
Yes, definitely use Commission Junction. They've got, I've almost any site that's B2C can find an affiliate program with Commission Junction because they've got so many that are listed. Linkshare's another one. I use AdSense is actually a good one.
Yeah.
Because especially when you can choose now just image only, so it doesn't look like you've got AdSense on the site.
Right.
I'm just giving away all my secrets right now.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and that's it. One more question. Anybody? Okay, well, make sure that you set up some time to talk with Theresa later.